From the Skyterra Wellness Retreat, this is the Inspired Intentions Podcast, where we help people build the skills and mindset to live a healthy life. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, if you've been enjoying our podcast, take a moment to rate and review. It may seem like a small thing, but our ratings and reviews make a huge difference in the quality of our show. They help us reach more listeners like you so we can continue bringing you more amazing content. So, if you've found inspiration, learned something new, or just love tuning in every week, please rate the Inspired Intentions Podcast 5 stars and leave us a review and even share with a friend. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get into the show. Inspired Intentions listeners, welcome back again today. We have a fun episode lined up for you from a Skyterra staff member. If you all listen to episode 219, How to Live Forever, episode 219, then you would know who this staff member guest is. That episode was all about how to nourish your body. Go back and listen to it. It was a great one. If that didn't give it away, I'll just have to tell you, I have Jeannie back on the podcast again today. Jeannie, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Anytime. I love doing that last one with you, and it's a really cool episode to listen to in your background history and perspective on nourishing your body. And I think that our listeners will gain a lot from this conversation today. I know I will, because self-admittedly, I don't really know anything about this. Yeah. So I always like those episodes. I get to learn a little something.
But it's more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jeannie, why don't you just reintroduce yourself right quick for everybody that didn't get to listen to that last episode?
Sure. So my name is Jeannie Boyer. I'm a dietitian here at Skyterra. I've been a registered dietitian for over 20 years, and I love to talk about food.
And you're a movie star now, too.
Oh yes. I had my debut just yesterday.
Yeah, we were working on some Skyterra videos yesterday with Jeannie, so more to come on that as well, which is exciting. But Jeannie, what are we here to talk about today?
We are talking about the Low FODMAP Diet.
The Low FODMAP Diet, which I'd never heard of. I had to make sure I was even saying it right before we got on here. And if you're anything like me, listeners, you're asking yourself, what is that? Well, it's an acronym. And Jeannie, what is that acronym? What does it stand for?
So I'm going to tell you what it stands for. You do not need to memorize it. Fermentable oligo mono and polyols. So what those are short-chain carbohydrates that are fermentable in the gut and osmotically active. So what that means is they pull in water and develop gas. So for someone with irritable bowel syndrome, these foods are causing those symptoms.
So our big conversation today is all about this diet for someone that maybe is suffering from irritable bowel syndrome.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome. Let's dive in. Tell us maybe a little bit more about who that was designed for.
Sure. So those with irritable bowel syndrome can have quick reactions to meals and foods where they have diarrhea very quickly, frequently, a lot of bloating right after meals. It's pretty difficult and miserable.
Sounds uncomfortable.
Yeah. And what's hard about it is we can get into some food lists, but it's not an easy thing to figure out what's causing your symptoms.
Okay.
And so it can be really confusing and frustrating.
So if that sounds like something that, I'm just going to go through the questions in order. I'm not going to try and go off script.
Okay.
So how does the Low FODMAP diet work exactly? So it's for a specific person who's suffering, and what might, are there different phases to it? Does it depend on what the person's dietary preferences are? How does it really work?
Yeah, sure. It's simply an elimination diet. So
Okay.
Someone will eliminate all foods that fall under that FODMAP category from their diet and follow that for 2 to 6 weeks.
Okay.
With the goal being symptoms reduce or minimal during that time. So when symptoms are reduced after avoiding and eliminating all those foods, then we can start to put back one at a time or specific doses of the foods at a time until we get symptoms again. So ultimately, we end up with a short list of foods to avoid the symptoms.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense when you say elimination diet. What are some of the things that people are eliminating?
So that, I think, is some of the most challenging. Like, as a dietitian, I feel like you ask me any diet, I can tell you the list of foods that should be included or not be included. But this one, I always have to go back to a book and my notes, because in my brain they don't match up simply. So, like, for an example, vegetable wise, it could be onions, garlic, asparagus, leeks, or avocado, or fruit could be pears or watermelon, but not some other foods like a banana, or it's, let's see, what are some others, like lentils and chickpeas and beans and cabbage and broccoli. And all of these are actually under separate lists. So FODMAPs is that acronym, but what we're talking about are things labeled as fructans or fructose or polyols, or GOS is the simple term, but galacto-oligosaccharides. So this is like, sounds super complicated, but the way the diet works is hopefully at the end we'll just be like, oh, you are super sensitive to fructans. Let's just focus on avoiding that list instead of the huge list.
Huge list. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had me at, like, if this was me, I'd be like, I love garlic and onion, and that's going to be really tough. But just because it's on the greater list, you're just, the elimination diet, you're going to narrow it down.
Correct.
How long did you say that would usually take?
It's 2 to 6 weeks, and I think I would adjust just based on how bad someone's symptoms are, and even how quickly, if we are feeling 100% better at week 3, then maybe we'll start to reintroduce at that point.
Okay, so sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's slower. It just really depends on the person.
And I think sometimes we can simplify it. If, like, for you, for instance, we're like, I always seem to react to something with a lot of onions, I would say, well, let's just try to avoid onions and see what happens.
So there's a little bit of that self-awareness, but if somebody has, like, absolutely no idea, they eat a variety of stuff, it might be a little bit harder to narrow down.
For sure. And it's hard also because sometimes symptoms don't pop up until it's a repeat. Like, if you had onions today, you're fine today. If you had onions tomorrow, you're not fine the next day. So it takes a lot of attention to figure out.
Oh, so you're saying it's not always just a one and done.
Or eat it, then have the reaction. It might be eat it today, eat it tomorrow, have the reaction on the third day.
Oh, wow.
Or you're okay with half an avocado, but not a whole avocado.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty complex.
For sure.
So as far as the long term of that, you would basically find over that, weeks period of time, 2 to 6 weeks, you said, you'd find the thing and then you would just basically avoid it forever. Is that the idea? Or is there ever a time where you can trickle things back in? Or
sometimes we can trickle things back in. What I find amazing is that gut-brain connection. And so, yes, we have the symptoms that come from the chemical makeup of this food and how your intestines react. But also our intestines are reacting to stress and anxiety and worry. So people with IBS will actually see symptoms flare under a stressful time.
Sure.
So if things are feeling really good and you've kind of have a calm season, you might be able to eat a little more variety. But at times of stress might be a good time to go back on that diet.
Hit your list again. Right. Go back on it.
But the goal is not to forever avoid, because then in extreme cases we can get to malnutrition and not adequate fiber intake and problems like that.
I'm sure you probably don't have like a percent or anything. So understand, listeners, that maybe this is a question she'll have to answer vaguely, but like, how successful are you with implementing this for folks,
It takes work, but I think when people are committed to doing the elimination, because it is so tough, and figuring it out, it can be very successful.
Okay. So you would, in your past experience,
individual basis, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. In your past experience, it's been more successful than not with folks that you've worked with, would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
If they're like, all right, let's do this.
Let's do it. Yeah. It sounds like it does definitely take some commitment.
And takes a lot of planning in that elimination phase because it's foods that are so common in cooking
Yeah.
or eating out. Like, I don't know where you go and you don't have an onion.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And those are, I mean, for me, those are the things that I like.
Right.
It would be really hard for me to give that stuff up. Be like, oh, I could sneak this in, you know.
Or apples. Like, I can't eat an apple.
Are apples on the list?
Apples are on the list. But again, it's very personalized. So somebody on the apples are more on the fructose list.
Sure.
So if you're fructin sensitive, you could eat an apple. But if you're fructose sensitive, you couldn't.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Are there any like misconceptions to this diet that you've when working with people, or maybe they're asking you about it, inquiring?
I think anytime anyone hears diet, they think weight loss.
Sure.
So, and especially something that's eliminating large groups of foods,
Mm-hmm.
there can be the tendency to use it for weight loss, which it is not for. It's also very specifically created for irritable bowel syndrome. So it's not necessarily for a gluten sensitivity or celiac disease or Crohn's disease.
Yeah.
It doesn't apply to all gut issues.
Lactose.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it can be confusing because sometimes people will avoid bread because of the FODMAP containing ingredients in bread, but it's not gluten. But people will think, well, you have to avoid bread, so it gets confusing that way. And it is not dairy-free. It's not complete gluten-free. Yeah, I think those are the top ones.
Gotcha. Is it ever used for weight loss?
I wouldn't say like a dietitian would recommend it for weight loss, but I'm sure people find it and try it out.
Yeah, I think the common misconception, like you said, is that diet means weight loss, and for a case like this, that's really not it.
Right, and I would be more concerned about weight loss on this diet. Like I wouldn't want somebody to lose weight because it eliminates so many things. That's a risk.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Or just the fear of the symptoms could cause people to avoid more foods than they need to.
Yeah, I'm sure that those symptoms are hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be a hard thing. Have you ever had an experience where, somebody is having IBS and this is not working for them even after that, 2 to 6 week period?
So even more complicated with IBS, there's different types. There's like IBS-C for constipation or IBS-D, diarrhea or the bloating. So it can be less effective for those people that suffer with more constipation because we're really reducing a lot of fiber.
Okay.
And then I think I kind of already mentioned, but just to add a little highlight there, it's people that have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or SIBO or Crohn's disease or irritable bowel disease, not syndrome. This diet is not for them.
Why is that?
Those are often caused by different conditions. Like bacterial overgrowth is not due to the types of carbohydrates coming in. And irritable bowel disease has a different cause, so this wouldn't be treating those causes. Gotcha.
And so when you have somebody on this, other than just like saying, here's a giant list, don't do it. Because that's that when somebody says elimination diet, that's what you think of. What are some of the other things that you're walking people through? Are you doing meal planning with them? Or what tips do you have?
I think meal planning is essential because especially in that elimination phase when I'm like, okay, here's our list, and it is a page long at least. It's like, okay, if I can't have apple and peanut butter, what am I supposed to have? Or if I've always eaten garlic and onions when I'm cooking, what am I supposed to do? So it takes a lot of work with guidance, I think. But once you work with your dietitian and get a plan in place and have done the elimination and know what you can include, there's some great resources out there that people have found. One of them would be the Monash app. So Monash. Monash is actually the university in Australia that created the diet.
I was going to ask where that actually came from. Okay.
And it's super useful. I think it's $17 done. So yes, there's a cost, but you're done once you pay for it once.
Okay.
And you can put in your food, and it will like red, yellow, green light it, and also indicate which group it's high or low in, and do the dose thing. So if it's like avocado, it would say, well, it's a green light at a quarter, but it's a red light at a whole. So it's super specific. It's very useful.
They're making it sound really, really easy.
Mm-hmm. And products are in there. Because it's Australian, there's a lot of Australian measurements and products, but they're better and better at including some American stuff.
Yeah, just kind of across the board.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. And you called that what, the Monash?
Monash app?
Monash
I don't know how they say it in Australia.
I'm not even going to try.
Me either.
we both looked at each other like, we're going to try this. No, I don't think we should. Okay, so they basically color code it for everyone. That's really interesting. What are there? Do you have any other tips for people?
So once you get your list, you figure out what you have to avoid, and I'm just going to keep talking about garlic and onions because that's my mom.
Okay.
But you can, the way foods are processed can reduce those FODMAPs triggers. So if garlic and onions are on your list to avoid, an infused oil, like a garlic infused olive oil, you could use that because we're not having the garlic itself.
Okay.
Or
to get the flavor.
Mm-hmm. Or pickled onions. The process of pickling changes that chemical structure that is causing the problem. So pickled onions might be better tolerated. Or there are some nuts and legumes that are on the list if they are, I can't think of the word, like sprouted, that they could be better tolerated.
Okay.
Or activated, like soaking your nuts can change.
Sure. What about like garlic powder or onion powder versus using whole garlic or whole onion?
I think you could do that.
Yeah. Because, it goes through, a dehydration process.
Right.
I'm sure it would change it.
Such a small amount can go
a
long way.
I cook with a lot of different seasonings, not necessarily like always chopping an onion up, though.
Right. You will get creative following this diet when you're like, well, I used to flavor it with this. I got to find something else.
Yeah, and it sounds like, the benefit you weigh in is worth it, too.
Yeah, for sure.
How complicated do you find that this is for folks that are that eat out a lot?
It can be tough. Again, because so often in restaurants, garlic is there, onions are there.
Yeah.
But once you have that list, it's fairly simple to order a salad that, have a salad and even bring your own dressing, or, we haven't mentioned any proteins, so your shrimp, your chicken, your fish is all fine. So if you're getting that kind of simple plate that is meat, vegetables, starch, you can make it work.
Gotcha. So would you recommend that somebody really does need to work with a dietitian to make this work for them?
100%. It can be so complicated, but also so effective. So I think to know that you're doing it right and can do it kind of once and get your little short list of foods to avoid would be much better than trying to wing it.
Understood. And that's a little job security for you too.
For sure.
So if somebody's thinking that this is right for them though, would it be helpful for them to take steps even before they see you to
sure.
make the process, I'm not going to say necessarily go faster, but go smoother?
Definitely. And I think it would help you even decide if that's what's causing your symptoms. So definitely keep a food log. And I would even say not like a MyFitnessPal or Lose It, not an app, pen and paper. And you write down everything you eat. This is where the tedious part comes in. Everything you eat, the amount, and symptoms day to day. It doesn't have to be like today I had a salad at lunch and I felt fine after lunch. It's almost like two side-by-side logs. We have the log of what we ate and we just have how we feel each day because of that dose-dependent reaction and repetition reaction. So you might see like you pack the same lunch every day and every Wednesday you feel like crap. Well, then we've seen like, oh, it's that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday repeat is causing the symptoms on Wednesday.
How much detail needs to be in that log? Like what would you what would be the most you'd want to see? Like somebody comes in their first appointment and be like, I've been logging for 2 weeks. Here is the exact ounce amount of onion that was in my salad that I had on Wednesday.
2.5 teaspoons.
Yeah. Or
no, I think it's I had a salad and on it was edamame and mango and shrimp, and then, just more like ingredients and like repeat day to day. If it's, if I had the leftover salad the next day, I'd want to know that.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. And just say a couple weeks of information would be plenty.
Yeah, for sure. And mood, I'd put your mood in there too. Like,
oh, interesting. Mm-hmm. Why incorporate the mood?
Because of that brain gut connection and like how much it impacts our gut. That whole saying. I use this in one of the classes that I teach here. Like, we say things like, I had a gut feeling about that, or I got butterflies in my stomach. Like, we know that connection, and it's real. So,
never thought of it like that, but I say that stuff all the time. If somebody's thinking that this is maybe right for them, what are some, other than maybe the Monash app, what are some of the things that you would point them in the direction towards? We're doing some research on, or resources.
I think a great resource we have is Rachel Paul's Foods. The website's just Rachel, Rachel, paulsfood.com. And so it's got lists and explanation of what's going on. They're downloadable PDFs. It's a good place to start and get a good picture of what's happening and what the diet includes. There's brands of sauces people can use. So a lot of sauces are going to have garlic and onions. So FODY, FODY, is a brand.
Oh, interesting.
And I've seen it in most grocery stores, like a marinade or a dressing, something like that. And then find your dietitian. Like, you can set up an appointment with me. There's also, Monash, the university, has a training program that I've done, and everyone that has completed it is on their website. So,
oh, cool.
If you live in South Dakota and you want to see someone face to face, you can check the website and find somebody.
And they can always meet with you. We have that option on Skyterra at home, right? They can.
Correct. Yep.
They can do a video chat one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
And in this specific diet, if that's the direction you want to go, I would strongly encourage you to do the package thing, because it's going to be more than a one-time visit.
Oh, yeah. Because, even the first round is just the big start of the elimination, right?
Right.
Okay. What else do people need to know about this? Like, anything that we missed?
I think it's very effective. There's some debate lately on, is it the best way to do things? And I think that's because it can be so restrictive, because the list can be so long. But I still think it's a useful place to start, for sure, like to at least get some symptom relief, and then make adjustments of, we can add this back.
Is there a alternative methodology that people are saying is better?
I haven't read that far yet.
Yeah.
I think it's more about, it is cutting out a lot of good fiber sources, and we're learning so much about the gut health and how much we need variety in plants. So that 2 to 6 weeks is slim pickings.
It's key. And the fact that it's not like eliminate this forever, I think is a big deal on that same note. Like, the point is not to take it out forever. It's just to take it out and see if that is the causation.
Yeah. I often will, if someone is short on time, we'll look at that 2-week food log and symptoms, and often we'll see a pattern, and we can kind of go backwards and say, well, let's just take out the one group of foods and see if symptoms get better, instead of taking it all out and then adding it back. But I think that just depends on someone's symptoms, severity, and frequency.
Gotcha. Anything else you think folks should know?
I don't think so.
I want to go over some of the foods. What are some of the, you've got all these lists of things that maybe cause that IBS for folks.
So, sure.
You could start with the categories, because I think these are super interesting.
I do too. And sorry for the squeaky chair.
It's okay.
And again, don't memorize these. I can't memorize them. but I can always provide a list. So fructans, these are, again, it's a short chain of sugars or carbohydrates. And these are the ones I talk about the most, the garlic, the onions. But it's also wheat, artichokes, asparagus, leeks. So these things, to me, I can kind of put together because, like, the layers in a leek and the layers in a artichoke, layers in an onion, layers in garlic. Brussels sprouts, fennel.
Your dog.
Yeah.
Jeannie has a awesome dog named Fennel.
She's great. I will take pictures of her anytime I have fennel to cook with. Put them together.
It's a great office dog.
Yeah. So here's where now I can't put it together anymore. Watermelon, nectarines, grapefruit, pomegranate. Take back an earlier statement. Ripe bananas. So if they are green, you don't have symptoms. But if they are ripe and ready, you would have symptoms.
Interesting. Okay.
I know. The people that figured this out.
Seems like a lot of research.
For sure. So that's kind of a general group of fructans. Then we go to fructose. So this is a single sugar, a monosaccharide in our fruits and honey. So apples, pears, peaches, mangoes, honey, high fructose corn syrup, dried fruits, and grapes.
Oh, that one's got to be hard. I use a ton of honey.
Oh, so does my son. I feel like his oatmeal is not oatmeal. It's just honey with oats.
I cook with it a lot. I make marinades, and
yeah.
that would be a tough one for me.
But this one, maybe you could check the app. Agave nectar might work.
Yeah, I do use that too.
So then there's galactans. So this is our beans, lentils, chickpeas, and some of our like broccoli, cauliflower foods.
Okay.
And then we have lactose, milk, soft cheeses, ice cream, yogurt. So it says soft cheese because of the way all cheeses are made so differently. Like you might do better with a Parmesan than you would a brie.
Gotcha.
And then there's polyols, apples, avocados, cherries, and all of our fun sugar alcohols, which you should be avoiding already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as you can see, it's a long list that covers a wide range of different foods.
And you didn't even name all the foods on the list, but you definitely gave the highlights. Do you find that there's one of these that is like the main culprit over others?
I think a lot of times we can look at those polyols. I mean, I tell a story in another Skyterra class about the time I ate too many sugar alcohols. That will definitely cause some bloat in almost anyone. But I really think it's the fructans. And I don't know if that's something about standard American diet or food processing or like what we usually cook, but I see a lot of people that need to avoid the fructans. And I'll use my mom again. She does avoid like the garlic and onions, but then avocados are a big trigger for her, and they're on a different list.
Interestingly enough, my girlfriend is the same way with avocados.
Yeah.
And certain dairy products as well. Yep. That's really interesting.
It is. It's kind of, yes, it's tedious, but it's also, I think, so hopeful because when you're having those symptoms and you're like, oh, I can't figure out what to eat, and you just want to feel better, like this can help.
Well, that's a ton of information. It sounds like something that you experience a lot with folks and have helped a lot of people with. Anything else you want listeners to know before we close this thing out?
I don't think so. If you have any questions, you can always reach out.
Yes, please. inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. You can reach out to us and we can get a hold of Jeannie if you have questions. And you never know, we could have her right back on here to answer some more stuff.
And I was going to say, like, I love talking about food. So if there's any subject that people want to hear about.
Diet specific, food specific. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Well, cool. I appreciate you coming on here and talking to me about this again, and just, educating me and taking all my probably basic questions. But I hope this was helpful for everybody. And again, hit us up if you have any questions, and we will catch you again next time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks.
The Inspired Intentions podcast is a production of Skyterra Wellness Retreat. Special thanks to our executive producer, Alan Broyhill. Send us your questions and comments to inspiredintentions@skyterrawellness.com. Subscribe on iTunes and everywhere podcasts can be found. If someone you know might benefit from this podcast, share Inspired Intentions with them and give us a 5-star rating. Join us next week as we cut through the unrealistic noise on diets and fitness and show you how healthy living fits seamlessly into your already busy life. Thanks for listening.